Andy Nowicki, altrightnovelist.com. Sometimes it seems that there is a convergence of events that happen both on a wider scale and on a narrower scale, on a more global level and also in a more personal way. And I find this is happening recently with all of the talk of the incels and the ridiculous reaction by the mainstream media to the event in Toronto with Alek Minassian and the van attack. Alek Minassian claiming to be an incel, and the response to that, which has been nothing short of hysterical against this group. And I'm not going to rehash what I said before with respect to all of that. You can find that in my previous few videos. This became a subject that became a little bit more consuming to me than I thought it would be. I thought this was something I could just more or less knock out in a video or two, but one thing kept leading to another. And this is what happens sometimes when I find a story interesting, or when I find that it has when there's a lot of meat on that bone to chew over. These things aren't always easy to predict. They just happen, and then the backlash happens, and then in the media, and then everything that can be discerned from both the event and from the backlash, and all circumstances that surround both of those things, both the existence of the incels as a group and the ridiculous way that mainstream media and mainstream feminism has responded to the incels as a group. All of that. There's a lot of interest going on there. Now, I had something happen to me personally over the last few days that would typically not be something I would discuss here, except that I think that it's relevant in its own way. And I think, again, if this were just an event, just something that happened to me out of the blue that was in general isolated from anything else, and it was something, as you'll see in a moment, it's something that I would have a legitimate complaint about, legitimate beef about, something that I think I would in different circumstances maybe just feel like ranting about for a moment or two. I don't generally rant here in the videos that I do, or in the podcasts that I've done, or in my writing. I'm not a ranter, because I don't think that ranting is helpful. I mean, we all know that certain things are outrageous. It doesn't really help to just rant about how outrageous they are and how outraged you are. In some cases, I guess a person can rant in a way that's entertaining. I don't think I'm that kind of person. I struggle to be entertaining anytime, much less when I'm just ranting. I think that gets ultimately tiresome. But I do think that when something happens to you that could be categorized as a kind of mild outrage, I don't want to blow this out of proportion, but it's an outrage of a kind. It was an injustice, and it represents something that I believe is to be unjust, and so forth. But again, there's more meat on the bones to be chewed over, and that's what I find interesting. That's why I'm bringing it up here. That's why I think it's something that's worth talking about. So what happened to me was, I have a book, one of the books that I've published, which is entitled Colette's Dream Man. And last month, it turns out, I was, I sometimes just visit my various places where people have written reviews, sporadically, of different things that I've written, whether Goodreads or Amazon or elsewhere. And the other day I found that my book Colette's Dream Man had gotten a review. Previously there had been no written reviews of it at Amazon, and this was a 1-star review. And I thought to myself, whoa, a 1-star review, somebody hated it. Hated it! So what's this about? So I scrolled down to check it out, and the review read like this. By the way, this review is no longer up on the site for reasons that you'll hear about momentarily. But the reviewer, whose name I won't give here, wrote this: I find it creepy that the author is a professor at a school in Savannah and wrote about an inappropriate student relationship based in Savannah. ... Just saying. So this review was, this was the review. That was the whole of it. There's nothing really in it about the book itself, nothing about the story, nothing about why the book merited 1 star, but just that there's something creepy about the fact that the author lives in Savannah. She mistakenly thought that I was a professor in Savannah, this reviewer, which I used to be. I no longer work. I was never a professor, but I used to be an instructor, which I am no longer doing. I have a different job by day, and I've got the pizza gig, which is just some extra dough, if you will, by night. But I'm no longer working as a professor, but she apparently thinks that I still am a professor. And moreover, she said, well, just what she said, what I read to you a moment ago. This was a reason to give me a 1-star review, that it's creepy that I live in Savannah, work as a professor, and that I wrote a story in which a student has an inappropriate relationship with a teacher. Where to begin? Well, let me just talk about what happened after that, what I did after I read this review. Normally, I don't do anything. We know people are entitled to their opinions, and if people want to write me 1-star reviews, I honestly, I don't like it. I'd rather that they wrote me 5-star reviews, obviously, or at least 4-star reviews. But if somebody reads something that I wrote and they don't like it, I don't really care. I don't blow that out of proportion. People are entitled to think what they want to think, and I know not everybody's going to like it, and so forth and so on. In this case, though, nothing in the review told me or led me to believe that this person had actually read the book, because everything that you could, the thing that she discussed that was from the book is something that you could find out just from the write-up of the book, from the intro that you would see if you go on Amazon or elsewhere for the book. And yes, it's true that in the book there is an inappropriate relationship between a teacher, not a professor, a teacher, and a student who is an 18-year-old senior in high school. There is an inappropriate relationship between a high school history teacher and a female student. That does take place in the book, but anyway, so I didn't think that the person who wrote this review had actually read the book. I might be wrong. I don't know for sure, but it seemed to me that it was more or less just reading this write-up and then saying ew, and then okay, but what really got to me was reading the write-up, saying ew, because people are allowed to say ew, I guess, to be creeped out by whatever they're going to be creeped out by. But then to take the extra step of writing a scathing 1-star review, which doesn't even talk about the quality of the book, but just casts aspersions against the author, alleging that he's a creep, because, maybe he's had, inappropriate affairs with students, or maybe he's tried to initiate inappropriate affairs with students, or just why would he be writing about something like that even happening, given that he is an instructor, a college instructor, and it just seemed really, really wrong to me. Now, there's nothing, it doesn't cross any legal, it doesn't meet any legal threshold of defamation, because she doesn't say in this review that I am guilty of anything. She just says that she finds it creepy that I'm a professor, that she erroneously thought, and that I wrote a story about a student having an affair with a professor, which she erroneously thought happened in the book. But it's even a more egregious case than that, because it's a high school teacher having an affair with a high school senior who is 18. So legally speaking, it doesn't cross any lines, but still, it's obviously not something that I approve of. It's obviously not behavior that I, as an author or as a person, think is good or acceptable. But it was the subject matter of the book, just like I would suspect anyone who writes about murder doesn't approve of murder, but still is drawn to the subject matter for one reason or another, because the muse leads us where it leads us. So here's what I did. I typed in this person's name by search engine and found out who I thought it likely was. I didn't know her at all, and yes, it was a her. I didn't know this person. I tried to figure out who would feel this, like who would feel compelled, who would know about me, know about my work, and who, for one thing, and then who would more than that feel compelled to what's the right word? Not to defame or slander, but just to sully my name in some way, to make me seem like a creepy person, to make me, I think I even used the word a few minutes ago, but I've forgotten it now. But you know what I mean. It felt personal, because it was personal. And I don't know why somebody would feel compelled to do something like that, unless it was somebody that I had crossed or treated badly, or who had some kind of grudge against me. I couldn't see, just relating it to myself, I couldn't see doing something similar to anyone, unless, like I said, I had some reason to believe that this person was someone who others needed to know about, and even then, I find it just tacky, and I find it reprehensible, really, that to just take this approach of trying to make people think that this author is creepy. So anyway, I found out who it was, and I contacted her, and I wrote to her just that I had read her review and was hoping I could maybe chat with her for a moment or two about it, and that was it. That was all that I requested. I wasn't, I didn't express any opinion about her review. I didn't say that I was offended that she would try to poison the well of my reputation by implying that I was a creepy guy who pursued inappropriate relationships with my students, even though I don't have students anymore, but she didn't know that. I didn't say anything. I wasn't in any way pointed in my manner of contacting her. But I just said, you know, I requested that we chat about it. And she didn't get back to me, but I did find the next day that the review was gone, that she'd taken it down. So, mission accomplished, I guess. In a way, I'm glad the review is not there anymore. I wish I'd known about it sooner, because people who just happened to go look me up on Amazon and who saw that review might be led to believe certain things were true about me that weren't true about me, that aren't true about me. I.e., I have never had nor pursued an inappropriate relationship with a student. But so it doesn't, again, I'm sure it doesn't meet the legal threshold of defamation, because it is just her expressing her belief that it's creepy, but it does seem to me to have been a low blow. And I wanted to know why she would feel compelled to do it. And I still don't have the answer to that question. What I suspect is that, and this is where what I'm saying relates to the stuff I was talking about before. You know, this is where the story that took place on a personal level relates to the wider cultural trends. Okay, we live in the Me Too era. We live in the incels are creepy era. We live in an era where a mainstream feminist can post something on Twitter implying that CEOs should root out anyone who identifies as an incel, who maybe works for them, who works for their companies. All these outrages are manifest in our era. And I just wonder if being a man who is, let's just say, in his middle age, who is obviously not a looker, who is, as I've said before, you know, I embrace the low status male label. Not that I'm usually big on labels, but I embrace it for my own purposes. So, you know, a not so good looking guy in his 40s writes a book, who'd been working as a professor, who at some point in the recent past had been exposed as, you know, a purveyor of wrongthink, who is in some way affiliated with the alt-right, that gross, evil, awful group of people that, just like the incels, need to be rooted out ruthlessly. You know, my associations, the notoriety of my associations probably don't help my case as far as me seeming like a creep. Although it's hard for me to know whether for this person, whether that played any role or not. But I do know that she had been affiliated with an institution where I had taught for a time, for a short period of time. But this was an institution where when I got exposed, when I got outed, when I got doxxed by, I think it was, I'm almost positive it was the SPLC. When that happened back in, it was either late 2013 or early 2014. It was the last year that I was an instructor of English. The last year that I taught, that is. When that happened, I was at this particular institution, which is part of what made me think that this person had, why I would be on her radar screen in the first place. Now, I'm not going to give out any more information about her. And if there are probably people out there who are computer savvy, who know ways of finding stuff that's been deleted. If you do this and you find her name, do not contact her. Do not harass her. I want to make it clear, I'm not recommending that anybody do that at all. I think she did the right thing by taking the review down. Again, I want to make it clear that I'm not, if she wanted to put up a 1-star review that was scathing in its assessment of my book, if she wanted to say the sex was tawdry and the characters are unbelievable and this, that, and the other are wrong with it, and this guy just can't write at all, he sucks. I mean, I wouldn't like it, but it wouldn't have upset me, it wouldn't have bothered me the way that the one-star review that she did write upset and bothered me. So in any case, it just to wrap things up here, I've already gone a little long. It seems to me that my personal circumstance in this case can be seen to interlace with the wider misandric trends of our age, where being a middle-aged man who, any expression of this middle-aged man who is low status, having a sex drive at all, that's just like criminal. That's absolutely disgusting, that he would write a book in which a teacher has an affair with a student. That obviously, and he's this creepy guy in his 40s with all kinds of unsavory associations with the alt-right and what have you. Obviously, this guy is a creep. He's creepy. I mean, I think, and this is the reason why I'm bringing this up here. This is the reason why I'm mentioning this. Why I think it's interesting to talk about this story at all. If it was just me fulminating against somebody who I believed had done me wrong in an egregious sort of way, even if it was a small thing, it's not a huge thing, but still an irksome thing, a bothersome thing. But if it was just something isolated out of the blue, not really related to what's going on in the world, I wouldn't have found it as interesting to talk about. The fact that it lands so squarely in my wheelhouse of so much of what I discuss here and so much of what I write about, and related to contemporary trends with respect to relations between the sexes and cultural misandry and the effort to criminalize, in essence, thought criminalize low status male, middle-aged, sexuality. This is what I find very interesting about it. And again, I'm happy that she took it down, but I would have liked to have heard from her, because I would have been interested to hear why she felt I would have honestly been interested to hear why she had felt compelled to write it in the first place. What was it about me, just some rando out there who wrote a book, you know, not a very well-known author, you know, a niche market, but it's not like I'm not John Grisham or anything, I'm not Stephen King or anything. You know, why would you feel the need to take this kind of egregious shot at somebody under these kinds of circumstances, you know? And it would have been interesting to hear from her and to hear if my suspicions would have been confirmed. Of course, if she had responded, there's no telling whether she would have told the truth or not. I'm well aware of that. But it still would have been interesting just to hear. And I mean, honestly interesting, not just, I don't just mean that passive aggressively. I don't mean it passive aggressively at all. While I strongly disapprove, while I was strongly bothered by the review itself, I would have liked to have heard from her, just to see if my suspicions would be confirmed on this front. So anyway, let me know what you think if you want. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. Check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.